welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. Today we have started a new series called Religion and Society. Now this is the title of a paper which is offered as a part of the syllabus of second semester, that is first year BA multidisciplinary course, BA also known as BA program. So in this series we are going to talk about how different sociologists have kind of helped us to understand this relation between religion and society. In the first lecture, we are discussing Andre Bette's understanding of religion as a subject for sociology. And in the first part of the lecture, we discussed on how a sociological approach is distinct from a theological or a philosophical understanding of religion, where the main feature is to a kind of understand religion as a social reality, and the second important part is to use a comparative method. Why? Because religion cannot be understood in itself, it has to be understood in relation to other religion, other culture and other practices. In this part 2 of the lecture, we are going to understand the way in which different sociologists, mainly the founding fathers, have contributed to the growth of sociology of religion. So, in studying religion, the sociologist or social anthropologist try to observe and describe how people act as well as to understand and interpret the meaning they assign to their acts. Durkheim and Weber both treat religion as a social fact, but Durkheim views it as an objective, collective reality external to individuals that bind society. Now, we need to keep in mind that Durkheim belonged to the positivist school, where the aim was to build a science of society, and therefore the emphasis on objectivity and collective reality. Weber comes in as part of questioning the objective and reality, and he sees society more from the way in which subjective meanings motivate individuals' action within broader historical context. So, the approaches of Durkheim and Weber differ fundamentally in the level of analysis, functions of religion and methodological emphasis. So, when we look into the functions of religion, Durkheim was very clear that it had a moral functioning of building the collectivity, whereas Weber felt that the religious or the cultural practices could be directly lead to the economic growth. Now, let us look into some of the core concepts in the study of religion as a sociological subject. So, Durkheim defines social fact as a ways of acting, thinking or feeling external to the individual and coercive over them, with religion as the archetype of social fact embodying social collective conscience. Weber does not emphasize religion as a social fact in Durkheim's reified sense, but as a meaningful orientation, that's Verstehen, that actors subjectively invest in their conduct, influencing social outcomes like economic rationalization. Durkheim's first functionalism sees religion as essential for social stability, originating in group dynamics. So, when we look into the two, we see that Weber was Andre Bethe is referring to Durkheim and Weber, and he is looking into the contradiction between the two sociologists in order to understand the diversity in the study of religion as a subject. So, Bethe contrasts Weber's emphasis on actors' meaning, that is Verstehen, with Durkheim's behavioralistic focus on external facts, and highlights tensions between committed, that is theological, and detached, that is sociological perspective, using critiques by Gaston Richards and Evans Pritchard. So, from this we know that Weber was focusing more on meaning, the meaning that every social action had for the actor, whereas Durkheim was kind of using a generalized social fact. So, Weber understanding the subjective meaning an actor assigns to their action is crucial across all social sphere, including religion. What does a priestly or a prophetic vocation mean? And what worldview does a religion offer? Weber combined this interpretative focus with detached comparison across tradition and careful analysis of material and institution conditions linked to beliefs and practices. Weber links religious meaning to economic action through his concept of elective affinity, where specific religious ethics shape motivation for rational, disciplined economic behavior. Key example from his comparative sociology of religion includes Protestantism fostering capitalism, while other traditions like Hinduism and Confucianism did not. So, here basically the main argument of Durkheim in his work, The Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism, he was kind of giving weightage to the ethic of Protestantism, which was in terms of elective affinity, investing, kind of glorifying the beauty of God, and in that rationalization, you were kind of leading to economic growth. Now, this detached, rationalized action was critiqued by Durkheim. Durkheim's own work of understanding religion as a social fact has been seen as conservative by radical theorists for emphasizing religious social importance. Yet, he valued it for its utility, binding society, not its truth, a point theologians find problematic. French Catholic sociologist Gaston Richard, once part of Durkheim's anti-sociological circle but a Protestant convert, argued that Durkheim's work was incompatible with Christians' faith or even philosophical theism. Similarly, Evans Pritchard, who converted from Protestantism to Catholicism, later criticized Durkheim's sociology of religion. Andre Bethe uses Evans Pritchard's trajectory to mark the proper limit of sociology of religion. It can explain how religion works socially but not decide whether a doctrine is true or replace theology. In his 1962 Aquinas lecture to a Catholic audience, Evans Pritchard attacked anthropological study of religion as being in bad faith, and in 1965 he extended a similar critique to sociological theories, grouping Durkheim, Marx and Engel as sharing a reductionist ultimately. He later became more skeptical about what social anthropologists and sociology can contribute to understanding religion. So, he asserted that sociology and anthropology could never fully grasp religion without theology. Over time, however, as his attachment to Catholicism deepened, he moved from accepting a limited role for anthropology to treating sociological anthropological claims about religion as almost worthless for grasping religion in true sense. Bethe uses these critiques to dramatize the tension between a detached skeptical sociology that explained religion by its social function and committed stance that treats religious truth as irreducible. Bethe argues that sociology of religion comes to grief whenever it moves beyond empirical concern and tries to decide on the truth or falsity of beliefs, whether Ram was an ideal man, whether Muhammad was a true prophet, or whether Christ's death was salvific are questions it cannot adjudicate. This does not make sociology of religion trivial. It can still say something of interest about religion's place in social life, how beliefs and rituals relate to family, politics, economy, conflict, and solidarity without pronouncing on ultimate theological truth. So, after discussing the problems and critique of Durkheim, Bethe again returns back to Weber because the whole idea of understanding the debate between objectivity and subjectivity, or whether there is a possibility of having a detached understanding of religion, and that is the reason why he returns to Weber. Weber stands as absolutely unmusical religiously, helps Bethe sharpen a methodological point. Interpretative sociology can seek understanding from the outside, remaining value neutral without requiring personal participation in a faith. Weber combined a strong commitment to Verstehen, that meaning of Verstehen is meaning and interpretation, with an equally strong insistence on objectivity and value neutrality, rejecting a natural science model like Durkheim while still refusing religious commitment. For Bethe, Max Weber shows that value neutrality in the study of religion does not mean ignoring value. Rather, it means not sharing or endorsing the values of the faith one studies. The sociologist of religion therefore seeks empathetic, interpretative understanding of actors' meaning while maintaining critical distance and refusing to decide on the truth of the doctrine. For Andrea Bethe, Max Weber's work best illustrates how far interpretative understanding can systematically achieve understanding rather than theological completeness. However, when we look into the way the sociology of religion has evolved, there is a shift kind of from religion to politics. Most contemporary theories accept that a sociologist need not share a faith to understand its institution. Weber's work is taken as a proof that religious skepticism and detachment can coexist with deep interpretative understanding. The sharper controversy now lies elsewhere, whether similar detachment is possible or desirable in study of political process, class, gender and nation, or whether these inherently demand commitment and partisanship. Bethe suggests that the lessons drawn from the sociology of region remain relevant and cannot be altogether without value for how sociologists approach politics today. So, while some may accept objectivity and value neutrality for studying religion, many sociologists argue that issues like class exploitation, gender oppression, or nationalism demand moral and political commitment, and this is very close to the Marxist foundation or the proletarian standpoint. So, the theoretical basis of this commitment lies in Karl Marx and Marxists such as Lucas, Koch, and Gramsci, particularly around the study of class. In these strands, a privileged epistemic status is given to the viewpoint of proletariat. Bourgeois representations of society are seen as partial and distorted. On the other hand, the proletarian standpoint tied to the overcoming of capitalism is claimed to yield a more complete and historically true picture of social reality. Andrea Bethe presents this Marxist argument as a direct challenge to Weberian value neutrality since it fuses ethics, politics, and epistemology into a single partisan standpoint. This sets up the broader question whether sociology should emulate Weber's detached interpretative stance or embrace a normatively committed perspective when studying structural inequalities and power relations. Bethe argues that despite powerful Marxist critique of a value-free social science, The effort towards detachment and neutrality remains methodologically necessary in politics just as in religion. Lucas, followed by Koss and Gramsci and others, attacked value free social science and proposed a method based on the unity of theory and practice, claiming that only a praxis linked standpoint, that is, the proletariat point, yields true insight into the social totality. This approach put defenders of neutrality on the defensive by promising both deeper theoretical understanding and revolutionary practical efforts. Lucas' position is that genuine understanding of social process require grasping the totality, and that such an insight is available only when theory is fused with practice and commitment. So, we have to understand the totality and the temptation of commitment. Andre Bethe notes that sociologists and anthropologists have become wary of such totality claims in relation to religion, where sociology once claimed total truth and asks why they should accept them in politics, where Marxists make analogous claim. One counter argument is, unlike religion, politics in the modern world is inescapable. Nobody can remain indifferent to fundamental political questions. So, we get to learn lessons for sociology of religion for politics. Bethe remained unconvinced that neutrality is in principle easier or more desirable regarding a religious faith than political ideology. Both domains are normatively charged and difficult to bracket. His conclusion is that sociology of politics, of nation, class, gender, has something to learn from the sociology of religion, and that is the disciplined attempt at objectivity, detachment, and value neutrality, even if imperfect, is methodologically valuable and should not be abandoned in favor of totalizing partisan standpoint. Bethe's first concluding lesson is that value neutrality is a necessary methodological ideal, but always imperfect in practice. This imperfection does not justify embracing open partisanship. Scientific sociology, that is the sociology of Durkheim in the Rules of Sociological Method, where he gives us the understanding of social facts and the features, this scientific sociology tends to treat the separation of fact and value as a technical issue that can be solved if one uses the correct method, often underestimating the difficulty. Interpretative sociology, exemplified by Weber, takes the problem much more seriously and sees the fact value distinction constantly at risk with no simple recipe for success. Detachment, objectivity, and value neutrality are hard to practice and never fully achieved in politics as much as in religion, leaving the proponent open to continual charges of hypocrisy or hidden bias. Bethe insists that incomplete success is not a valid reason to abandon the principle. Instead, neutrality functions as a regulative ideal that should still guide sociological work. Bethe finds it significant that a Marxist choose objectivity over partisanship when studying religion. However, striving for objectivity remains both possible and desirable, especially in the sociology of religion. The second concluding lesson is that sociology, including the sociology of religion, can never offer a total unified picture of the world or tell us which religion or politics is best. It is limited to partial empirical understanding of beliefs and institutions. Sociology stands opposed to theological or other totalizing worldview that claim a single key to reality and action, whether doctrinal or ideological. It can describe and analyze religion and political beliefs, practices, and institutions across time and place, but has almost nothing legitimate to say about whether one ought to be Hindu, Muslim, Christian, believer or unbelievable, liberal, conservative, or radical. Questions such as which is the best religion or which is the best political ideology may be essentially crucial for individual, yet there is no social theory that can answer them in a definitive prescriptive way. For Bethe, this limiting non-totalizing role is precisely what distinguishes sociology from theology and from partisan political philosophies. Sociology contributes disciplined understanding, not ultimate, not normative verdict. Bethe clarifies that insider faith or ideology, that is, say, the ideology of a Catholic or a communist, can be both an asset and a liability in a sociological work, and that the insider outsider issue is especially delicate in religion because doctrine can obstruct as well as aid understanding. A Catholic or communist can be good sociologist and may initially have advantages when studying religion or politics. Direct experience helps in grasping symbols, rituals, and processes that are opaque to outsiders. So, when we look into these, we also try to understand how religion and politics are also domains of doctrines, and doctrine can mislead. Pre-performed theological or ideological schemes may cause the researcher to fit facts into a preconceived pattern, becoming an obstacle to genuine experience and observation. So, when we look into the work of Evans Pritchard's relativism and Max Muller, we see how they could kind of question the value neutrality and objectivity in the study of religion. Evans Pritchard had good reason to criticize earlier anthropologists who assumed in advance that all religions are equally false, since that it itself is a doctrinal position masquerading as neutrality. What truly troubled him was the relativism generated by comparative studies of language, myth, and religion, which seemed to reduce Christianity from one truth faith to just one religion among others, all equally false, leading him to praise Max Muller for stepping carefully to avoid conflict with church authorities like the Bishop of Gloucester. Bethe concludes that understanding religion requires concern and sympathy, but it is very hard to tell how much of that concern comes from a genuine desire to understand and how much from fear of religious authority or loyalty to doctrine. So, this is why the insider outsider problem in sociology of religion is both complex and delicate. Insider commitment can deepen comprehension yet easily slide into apologistic, while outsiders' distance can aid critical clarity yet risk prejudice or cold abstraction. Bethe's final move is to argue that sociology must balance sympathetic concern with detachment and fairness, and that in studying religion and politics, objectivity could mean pure separation, but should be refined as objectivity as fairness. In both religion and politics, insiders' commitment to a nation, working class, or faith can degenerate into mere deference to state or party, just as religious concern can become obedience to church authority. Being religiously unmusical or skeptical of the proletariat historical mission does not preclude concern and sympathy. These do not logically require adopting any particular religious or political doctrine. Bethe argues that facts of religion and politics differ from material facts because they involve persons, meanings, and moral stakes. They cannot be approached solely with a physicist stand and require attention to fairness as well as rigor. Objectivity for Bethe should be understood as fairness and disciplined even handedness in how different religious and political viewpoints are presented and interpreted rather than cold separation from them. Fairness means systematically presenting or at least taking into account different standpoints without privileging one tradition as beyond comparison, even while maintaining rigor and precision. So, to come to the conclusion, we see through the lecture that sociologists' task is to bring these multiple viewpoints into open and present the case for each as well as possible, remaining candid about personal values but refusing to act as a judge on questions of ultimate value, whether religious or ideological. Value neutrality is a methodological ideal. Do not turn your doctrine, religious or political, into the measure of truth for your data, and fairness is operational form of that ideal in plural contested fields. Objectivity should be practiced as fairness rather than as illusionary valuelessness. So, with this, we have had a good understanding of religion as a subject for sociology. And for reference, we have used Andhra Bethe 2002 published book Sociology Essays on Approach and Method. The lecture is based on page 134 to 150. With this, I come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.